Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Comic Book Curation Live episode. I apologize yet again. We're supposed to be doing this Wednesdays at 8 Eastern.
And because we're always doing it on Thursdays, we're stepping on Ethan's toes.
I don't know why. I honestly think Ethan Van Sciver is jealous of us, and that's why he keeps streaming at the same time that we are.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. I know. I mean, and we'd clearly be stealing his audience from him, right? Yeah.
Well, who wouldn't be jealous of us? Come on. Everyone knows about us.
Yeah, so we're supposed to be doing it at 10 Eastern on Wednesdays, and I fucked that up yesterday. So we're doing it at not 10 Eastern on Thursday. Like, I don't know. These guys are pretty patient with me. I'll give them that. So it's New Comic Book Day today. Did you buy new comic books? Or yesterday it was, I mean. Did you get anything new, Jack?
Oh, I always get new comics. Let's see, what did I pick up? I've got Amazing Spider-Man, Aberrant, Doctor Strange, The Flash. Picked up Scooby Apocalypse.
Oh, you really?
Yeah.
Like, have you been watching or been reading that, or is this like issue number 1 trying it out?
No, I've got a couple of issues, but I haven't really caught up on it. I wanted to get the issue 25. That's the big pivotal one. And I've been kind of tracking that one down, getting the recent issues while I do it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've only been reading those digitally. I haven't been actually picking them up, but I've been enjoying the shit out of that series.
Yeah, I picked up the Terrifics, Injustice versus Masters of the Universe, Terminator Sector War, and Action Comics.
Holy fuck. Do you do you don't do Move the Needle, do you? Hashtag Move the Needle on Twitter?
No, it would take me forever to take photos and put everybody's name in because I buy so many comics.
Right. I don't know. You've never seen the ones where guys are splaying out the like almost in like a fan of like, here's all the comics I got, and you know.
But if we're gonna do it the way that it was intended, they want you to tag the comic shop that you bought it in, the creators on the book, and the company. Yeah. And I would want to do it that way so that everybody's mentioned. And I'm way too lazy for that, honestly.
I don't know. No, you put up daily reviews. You don't seem that lazy.
Well, it's that extra little bit of work where I'm like, no, I'm not doing that.
Trust me, Inquisitor and I could teach you a few things about lazy. You don't even know. So what are you reading right now, Quiz?
I was just looking through stuff that was released today, and of all of the stuff that was released, the only thing that is in my pull is Silencer number 8 and Injustice 272. So
it's a thin week for you.
Yep.
I'm still reading Uncanny X-Men, and I'm having a ball with it. I went back and started at 265, right around when Jim Lee got on board, and Chris Claremont was still writing. I'm up to like 278 right now, and I'm having a good time with it.
Shit.
Apparently.
I need to call my comic shop.
Why?
Mr. and Mrs. X is on its issue number 2. So I need to get him to put on issue 1 and 2 on pull for me.
Didn't you have concerns that it wasn't going to be any good?
I've read through the first issue and it seemed okay. It seemed like an old X-Men type of comic, actually. About the fact that it was like, the X-Men doing their X-Men-y thing, and then all of a sudden people say, hey, you need to go to space, and the X-Men go, sure, we'll go to space, except that the X-Men is just Rogue and Gambit.
Huh.
And they're not being written out of character, which has me sitting there going, oh my god, Marvel, you're finally doing something okay for once.
I assure you it was an accident.
So
yeah, I've dropped most of my Marvel titles, and I'm doing more indie stuff. Like, I got to go to my other comic shop and pick up the pull list stuff there. I have a problem.
Yeah, I need to consolidate mine too, because there's a comic shop that I go to, but it's like an hour away. There's one that's much closer. but I don't know the guys there that well. The reason why I've been sticking around with the one that's an hour away is because I used to live closer to there, and I know the guy there. Like I'll sit there and talk with him for like, you know, an hour, 2 hours when I go there. It's definitely not the same sort of environment, but the other place, it's just so much closer. And oh shit, did West Coast Avengers come out today? Yeah, West Coast Avengers #1 came out.
Oh God. Well,
I flipped through it, man. It looked like a real dog turd.
That's great. I'm gonna grab it.
Yeah, so am I. I am so gonna buy myself a copy of that.
I get a really awesome discount from my one comic shop, and I'm still not gonna buy that crap.
Well, it's not like you're keeping money from Marvel. Read. They already got the money, you know.
It's definitely a hate read, dude. It's not one that you're sitting there saying, "Oh, I'm so disappointed that West Coast Avengers was bad."
Yeah, I'm already spending like $50 to $60 a week. I don't really want to justify another 4 or 5 for that garbage.
So, Jack, I already asked Inquisitor about this before. Do you remember Dakota North?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was weird. When I was growing up, I grew up in a real small town where we only had a local corner shop that sold comics on a magazine rack.
Right.
But Dakota North was one of the books that was there. So I actually read it because of my limited options.
And
we only had like 20 titles to choose from.
Right. And of course they bring this in because style.
Yeah. Yeah, look at that 80s outfit. That is so 80s.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's so, you know, futuristic. I could see something like that being worn by replicants in Blade Runner.
You know, that's funny that I was just about to say that. You took that right out of my mind. That's it does look like very future retro replicant-y. It does. Especially the haircut.
Yeah. Dude, don't even get me started on the Bob. On the page girl Bob. I love it. I play the Sisters of Battle for a reason.
I'm trying to look at you know, you can tell it's the 80s because my God, they even bothered to draw the shoulder pads in her. Okay, so I was telling you guys that I have something I want to bitch about, and it's largely what I want to bitch about is my own mistake, which frankly I don't like admitting to, but whatever. So Inquisitor and I did a Captain America 700 variant issues, variant covers, and this was one of the covers that we looked at and we were talking about because it's one of the good covers. The actual standard edition, main edition cover is just shit.
Yeah.
And Inquisitor says, "Oh, this yeah, it looks very Jim Lee like," and I was like, "You think so?" And it's, you know, of course, I come to find out it is Jim Lee, so you know, great. That looked real smart there, but. In reading over X-Men Uncanny that I've been doing, I come across let's see, where is it? There it is. Oh, yep. Look, X-Men 268. Motherfucker.
Yeah. I used to have a poster of that.
Well, you don't find it a little annoying that they recycled a fucking 1990 comic for Captain America 700? Can't you go pay Jim Lee again to draw something new for you?
Why? They're cutting corners all over the place. Look at the paper quality. Do you really expect them to go rehire an artist that's going to cost them serious money?
Yeah. But I mean,
we're lucky they don't do more of this crap.
Like, I mean, that like you're recycling a variant cover. That's bad, man. Like it's a great pose. It looks great. Like I love the heavy inking on it, like we talked about in the original review that we were doing of those covers. But that's some serious corner cutting. I agree. Like they must have like
no, that's not corner cutting. That is straight up tracing again. And I already called out Joe Quinones on that. And is this a sort of thing where Jim Lee has a plagiarism case here?
No, it's all work for hire art back then, so they own all of it.
I remember Van Sciver talking about that, and it's like, you know, because once you have done the art for them, it's theirs. They own it. When he was talking about not getting credit for certain DC models being based upon his art, figurines being based on his art. And he's like, they don't owe me anything because once they've bought those images, they own them.
Yeah, you have to have specific. I know a little bit about this because I've dealt with some work for hire artists before, and you have to have it written in the contract that any derivative work is yours. And they don't do that at the old publishing houses like Marvel and DC. Image is another story because they do a lot of contract work. Most of the creators own their own stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But Marvel and DC can reprint anything in their library with the exception of like one or two things, and they don't have to give anybody a penny.
That's so weird. That is so weird.
And they own a significant portion of comic book history. It's not just Jim Lee stuff from like Uncanny X-Men. They own Malibu, they own CrossGen, Disney owns CrossGen. So they've bought up other little companies over the years and all these other properties. Angela, whatever her name is.
Yeah.
They bought her.
Yeah. Well, that was a whole ordeal that they had to rip it away from Todd McFarlane. The person that did it was Neil Gaiman.
Yeah. Well, and like DC owns Wildstorm now. So they own all those characters and they can have them appear in the regular DC universe, just like they bought the Fawcett characters. So they own Captain Marvel and the Marvel family and all those other. They bought up Charleston's characters, Blue Beetle, The Question, Captain Atom, all that. They own all of that, so they can reprint the old stuff or make new stories with them. So they can recycle this art all they want, and it's really sad and pathetic because they really think that fans aren't going to catch on.
And I mean, here,
I'm trying so hard not to say "I told you so," Polly.
No, you're not, because you just did, you motherfucker. Yeah. It's just.
I'm trying so hard. I'm trying so hard.
I'm not calling you a miserable son of a bitch at all. Yes. This cover, I mean, you gotta love Jim Lee. I mean, he makes dudes look so cool. And he draws Wolverine as the short little angry furball that he is, and that's something I appreciate. Like, he's very consistent with his models. Like, his characters are always on model, you know. And he manages to make Black Widow look sexy as fuck. But I'm seriously against blonde Scarlett Johansson in Infinity War. It's like, honey, dye your hair. Like,
that's actually from a storyline, though.
It is.
She actually had blonde hair for a while.
What's the storyline?
He was hiding. I don't know. It was like 15, 20 years ago. But Black Widow was in hiding, and there were two Black Widows at the time. There was a blonde woman that actually was posing as Black Widow, but Natasha was undercover and like hiding from S.H.I.E.L.D., and so she dyed her hair blonde. So I'm sure you could find that somewhere.
No, you said that's from a storyline. That doesn't sound like it's from the Infinity War, Infinity Gauntlet.
Oh, it's not from Infinity Gauntlet. It's from something else.
So then I think it was about Scarlett Johansson saying in her contract as a writer, I'm going to do what I want to do.
Yeah, probably. she may have read the story. I think it was in a Marvel fanfare. But, I mean, you're talking something that happened 25, 30 years ago. My memory isn't going to tell me what Thursday was like. So
no, fair enough. I'm not asking you to remember it in that detail. It's just when you see things like that crop up, and then people like cynically start guessing that it's like the actor or actress that insisted upon it, like Jennifer Lawrence never appearing in the body blue makeup for Mystique, because it's just like, I just don't want to get in that makeup, and if you want me back contractually, I have to look like myself most of the time.
Yeah, it's because she's a pretentious little snot. But yeah, I mean, I can see the argument for that. I don't particularly like Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow anyway, mainly because her thighs are way too thick and she has that weird moon face. I think Mila Jovovich would have been a much better casting for that part, and I will maintain that until the day I die.
Bodily, yes, I would say so. Like, because Black Widow is supposed to be thin and hyper athletic, where Scarlett Johansson doesn't really, and hot. Yeah, she doesn't really come across. Scarlett Johansson doesn't really come across as, because she's thick, and I'm not complaining about that. I'm just saying, like,
I am. There better be some thigh gap on my Black Widow.
Oh, speaking of which, speaking of comic book ladies.
So
did you guys hear that Comic Book Girl 19 is done? I didn't realize that.
Oh, no, I didn't. Well,
is anyone surprised, though? She lost interest like 2 years ago.
Well, yeah.
Talk about drugs and stuff like that.
Well, did she? Is she like done entirely, or is she still doing Off the Rack?
She hasn't done Off the Rack in a long time, man. What was the little separate side ARPANET interwebs that Go 60, Go 40? What was it called?
It was like Go 60 or something.
Go 60? Like, yeah, and it was supposed to be like a interwebs network of things, and she never got paid for it. Like Marvel's Off the Rack was like contractual work that she did, and she complained about it. You guys, yes, Shady, we realize we're on the same time as Ethan. We already bitched about that. Ethan Van Sciver's trying to bring us down. I don't know what his problem is.
He's just trying to oppress us. He's the man.
Oh,
Go 90.
I go 90. I'm a 25-year veteran, hyper talented artist with the most successful comic book on Indiegogo. I could totally crush the little guy. That's his thing, man. I'm kidding. I love Uncle Ethan. It's just, oh yeah, Shady.
Where's my dagger? I need to go after Caesar.
Well,
just call me Brutus.
I never watched Comic Book Girl. Her shtick wasn't my thing, but she looked like she had a pretty good setup. She had lots of followers.
Mm-hmm.
And she had that like naughty punk rock look that I really want to do naughty things with.
There's no complaints. And she sat there and drank Blanton's bourbon every time she was filming. And I'm like, okay, you're cool. Like that's some pretty high-end, awesome bourbon, and it's bourbon. So it's like, okay, girl, you're pretty sick. That's cool.
Yeah, you're raging drunk. Those are the type of chicks that'll sleep with me. So I'm all for that, but I never really got into the shtick, so I never really watched her. But she had a really good thing going. I don't know why she would end that.
I don't know.
Because she explains it in pretty big detail. And like, you know, she's doing her own thing, like without shame, right? She says, I'm just going to be myself. So there's times where she got emotional and shed tears on the show because fuck it. You know, she's going to do what she's going to do, right? Yeah, man. She broke down in her last episode because it's like the adpocalypse hit us as hard as it hit everyone else, but we run a very expensive show here. It's not just me and T-Bone, the guy who's like filming everything and the producer. And then there's like Robot, the guy who runs like the cardboard robot they have. And I thought their shtick was funny between her and the robot guy. She's like, it's just the show's been running at a loss for a long time, and we're doing outside stuff to help support the cost of the show, which takes away from us the time that we spend doing the show, like the Dune Club that they did and the Watchmen Club thing that they did. And those were both really successful for her, but they ended up like bleeding all the money back into the show. So get this. So you guys think she's hot, right? Mm-hmm. In that same stream or video, like the final edition where she does like her review of the Infinity War, because people were bugging her, why haven't you done your review of Infinity War? We want to hear what you think. Mm-hmm. And she did, and it was called the last episode. She announced that she's doing a not safe for work full nude calendar.
Really?
Pre-orders available now, and she showed a couple of teaser shots, and it's like, oh, well, all right then.
Well, you have my interest. I think I may go check that out.
Yeah.
I've known plenty of drunks with daddy issues that'll get naked for free for me. So,
God damn, you're saucy tonight, Jack. Jesus Christ.
It's been a long day.
I'll say this for Comic Book Girl 19. I checked out some of her videos. I don't think I ever subscribed to her. I did binge watch like a whole bunch of her content when I first discovered her. But it was because of her that I picked up, tried, and eventually bought all of Empowered.
Okay, yeah.
She's also a big fan of the X-Men, which I never held against her.
You didn't hold that against her, huh?
No.
I don't know. It was, to me, there should be a bunch of different streams. Not everybody can be doing a Diversity in Comics, Umbrella Guy, Ethan Van Sciver stream, right? They should be different, right? And if you don't like somebody's stuff, as long as they're not shilling for SJW progressivism, I don't care. Like that. And I liked her stuff. I did sub to her. And so I'm like, well, that's too fucking bad. I was never part of the Dune Club or the Watchmen Club, but I was happy that she found like an alternative path towards a business model, like, if you know what I mean. And I'm like, oh, she's on Twitch now. That's her big thing. And she's doing well over there. And that's why Comic Book Girl 19, people were bugging her. Like, when are you going to do another video? And she's like, I just need to be bold and bring it to an end. Like,
is she still Comic Book Girl 19 over on Twitch?
I don't know. I didn't even know she was over on Twitch. I'm not a Twitcher. So,
well, the problem with e-celebrity in general is that it's a short ride. You have to save money and find a way to make everything cost effective.
Yeah. With how much coffee you drink, Polydub, I don't think that I'm not a Twitcher is very accurate for you. But anyway.
I would argue if I didn't have a cup of coffee in front of me right now, you motherfucker.
But yes, no, she is still Comic Book Girl 19 over on Twitch, and that's where she hosts her Dune Club stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've seen with like the Monday Matt escapade and several others, it's easy to tank your channel even through your own machinations or by accident or just people losing interest. Mm-hmm. So if she wanted to call it quits because of overhead, I get that, but that tells me that you're not budgeting very well and you're not looking at ways to cut your production costs. Because even with 3 people on staff, you've got to find a way to knock the price down. It can't be that hard.
Yeah, I'll say she also got the subsidiaries, subsidiaries from Marvel by doing Off the Rack. I'm sure she wasn't hurting when it came to money and all that other kind of stuff. I think that maybe she was just disillusioned. How many, I remember there was the big moment where she says that she hasn't bought a Marvel comic in like over a year and a half.
Yeah, it's because Marvel's garbage most of the time. There's still good books out there. You just have to hunt for them, and most people aren't willing to do that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have some articles here. Running along before we got into the articles, because we still got to pitch comics, and this is the organization we run with. None. Bleeding Cool never fails. They just you go there, you look around.
I think that's all they do, but that's okay.
yeah, fair enough. It's they never fail to fail. ABC Studios developing an interracial Bewitched reboot.
Why?
That's like, no, right? It's because why not? I don't know. Like this, like bereft of imagination. We're creatively bankrupt. What the fuck? Why not?
Did the Will Ferrell movie do that well?
Well, it's funny. It mentions that in the first. I'm not going to read the whole thing because I don't want to. But it says, perhaps you'll recall the good idea on paper but terribly executed Bewitched film in 2005 starring Nicole Kidman and Will Ferrell that sort of brought the idea of a reboot back to the conversation but ultimately led to nothing. Then in 2014, a sequel idea was approached. A pilot order was placed, but nothing ended up happening. And then they brought on... What's that?
Just an off-the-cuff remark here. How awful must Soilo have been, okay, when Bewitched had an $85 million budget and brought in the box office $131.4 million?
Oh, wow.
Bewitched is a success when Soilo wasn't.
They've got to have charts and graphs and shit where it's like anything with an existing cultural recognizable name out there will bring in at least a profit of 15.235%. Therefore, we will do, you know what I mean? I'm positive that the bean counters break out algorithmic charts that would blow your mind and PowerPoint presentations on why they should do this. I don't really think just much of a creative thing as we might think is going on in boardrooms. It's So cut just this month is Blackish creator Kenya Barris on her way out the door of her current project sold the idea for an interracial reboot of Bewitched. They have a pilot production deadline commitment. Now get this. Here's the quote written by the writing team, Kenya Barris and Yamara Taylor. This is them saying this. Okay, this is gold. Samantha, a hard-working black single mom who happens to be a witch, marries Darren, a white mortal who happens to be a bit of a slacker. They struggle to navigate their differences as she discovers that even a black girl is literally magic. She's still not as powerful as a decently tall white man with a full
God, get
hair
fucked.
in America.
Get fucked.
Wow. All right, now, you know what could have been cool is she's a black voodoo priestess from New Orleans, and he's like some uptight office worker, and they just happen to be in love. Make it really Odd Couple.
Dude, I would watch that movie. That's actually kind of a cool idea, Jack.
Well,
Where are you working in Hollywood?
I'm really into the whole New Orleans thing. So as soon as you're talking about a Marie Laveau styled woman, I'm like, I'm there. Like,
yeah, right?
Give
her like a thick Creole accent so you can barely understand her, but she's always walking around with the face paint and the skull necklaces and has a bag of bones that she casts with.
Well, Jesus Christ, what are you talking about?
And
I would watch the shit out of that movie.
She's got a major rival named Dr. John. Constantly showing up. Yeah.
You hire Zoe Kravitz to play her, a hot young woman like Marie Laveau, like, a light-skinned Creole woman like Marie Laveau was. That's what you do. You don't go, what are you talking about? Skulls and face paint.
Voodoo priestess. No, voodoo priestess. You even get Zoe Saldana so she could kick some ass occasionally.
Oh, Zoe Saldana is so overrated. Anyway,
but at least she's athletic. So
that's true. She is.
I mean, Colombiana was a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
And then make Darren like some office dude, just some normal guy, and he's hanging out with this chick that's totally opposite from him. I would watch that movie.
Are you guys watching chat? Because I'm not. Is anyone talking to us? Oh, Jim's here. See? No one's paying attention. God damn it.
I am. I said hi, Jim.
Hi, Jim. Hi, Shady. Hi, Mustafa.
Polydub.
I'm reading off.
Jim, I just saw an article on Bleeding Fool from earlier this month about his book.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll throw the link in chat. Yeah, it seemed to be.
Really? Well, wow. I've got two choices for you guys.
Shock.
Bleeding Fool, not Bleeding Cool.
Oh, Bleeding Fool.
Literally Bleeding Fool. Okay. Which one would you rather hear about? Mark Waid's idea for a Superman movie or Bendis responding to Twitter hate?
Well, they're both pretty dumb, so coin flip.
Okay, how about we read the article that's not an article? It's okay. Get this. This is great. I'm just going to pile through this and you'll see what I mean. Acclaimed comic book writer Mark Waid has a story for a Superman movie, is the headline. Okay. This is at another gold mine of idiocy. Sci-fi.com, sci-fi.com. You got to go check it out. It's a great place.
Good old sci-fi.
Yep. If anyone has the sheer credibility to write a Superman movie, it's Mark Waid. The longtime and acclaimed comics writer has penned a terrific story arc for both the big houses, Marvel and DC, and he's put out an imprint of the many greatest heroes in each of those universes, including The Flash, Captain America, Fantastic Four, and others. But there's one character Waid may be most identified with, and it's the Man of Steel, because they look so much alike, I'm assuming. Waid's association with the last son of Krypton began in 1985 when blah, blah, blah. It's still considered one of the best, if not the best, of all time Superman origin stories ever told. So Waid has a long and creative relationship with Kal-El, which makes it even stranger to think he has yet to be tapped by the DC film division at Warner Brothers Pictures to at least pitch an idea for a Superman movie. Although some elements of Birthright did turn up in 2013's Man of Steel and 2016's Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Not that he isn't ready for it. Asked in an interview with Revenge of the Fans if he would be interested in writing a Superman movie, Waid responded, "Sure, I mean, that would never happen. So it's really easy for me to say yes, but sure, that'd be interesting." So he's just full of cogent speech, this guy. Not only would it be interesting, but Waid says he has an idea for what he would do. "I'd take a swing at something like that. I don't know what my story would be. Actually, that's not true. I know exactly what my story would be, but I can't give it away. It's the one Superman story I've got in my back pocket that, if we all live long enough, maybe someone will ask me to tell it someday." Of course, we'd love to know what Wade's super secret Superman story is. So if anyone at DC Films or Warner Brothers is reading this, perhaps you should give this guy a call or invite him to the offices for a meeting, especially since future plans for Superman on the big screen seem to be kind of stalled at the moment. This brings up an interesting question. Why are more comic books writers, blah, 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 you know, and then it goes on. And you get the idea. Would you like to see acclaimed comic book writer Mark Waid pen the next Superman movie? End of article.
I would rather watch another Zack Snyder Superman movie. I really would. Oh, yeah. Mark Waid's best work was when he was an editor, not a writer.
My point is, do you guys see how this is not an article? This is a media asset piece.
Yeah. Oh, it's absolutely propaganda.
This is him pushing the idea of hire me, or somebody hoping that he gets hired, or his publicist or whatever. The headline is literally acclaimed comic book writer Mark Waid has a story idea for a Superman movie. You read the article and it's like, yeah, but I ain't telling. So hire me.
Yeah, because his idea is going to be hackneyed and recycled from some storyline he did 20 years ago. Or he'll be like, Lex Luthor is played by Trump.
Yes. Lex Luthor is a literal Nazi. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's every time before Superman can save someone, he has to acknowledge his Kryptonian privilege or something.
Oh God.
Yeah, I could write this.
I know it's a drum that I beat again and again, but it just the amount of paid for and paid through considerations, media assets that are out there. I don't think people understand that. And they're so shameless about it. Like it's when you heard the words of that article and it was clearly like a pitch. So if anybody out there is listening, hopefully this will start some activity on Twitter, you know.
Yeah, he threw $20 at some writer over there and they're like, oh yes, I'd love to fellatiate you, Mr. Waid.
Mm-hmm.
This is how you sow seeds of cynicism. Sorry, I didn't mean all the alliteration there, but it.
Oh man, no, that seeds were sown 20 years ago.
Okay, this is how you nurture people's ever-growing cynicism. Then.
Oh yeah, absolutely, because it's just like what the Gamergaters were complaining about. There's no line between what the journalists are doing and what the creators are doing. They're all interwoven. And they're giving each other back pats and helping each other out. And I don't see any difference here. They're like, oh, these evil comic gators are picking on Mr. Waid. Let's puff him up a little bit. That's all this is. They're just trying to help each other get work.
Who's the artist it's Kwanzaa. He just every tweet he refuses to say Comicsgate. It's Comics Hate.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so like the Mean Girls line. Stop trying to make comics hate a thing. It's never going to be a thing. You know,
there's no originality, and that shows it. Like comics hate, really?
Yeah.
How lazy is that? Oh, like your X-Men knockoff book. Oh, oops. Sorry, Kwanzaa.
What, Black as Fuck?
Yeah, Black.
Yeah. Well, it's Black AF.
No, the original Black miniseries.
Yeah,
I've got those. I'm going to review them at some point because it's an X-Men knockoff. That's all it is. It's just black people as X-Men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and of course the power fantasy, because the only people who have powers are black, and it's like, dude, what's your problem?
It's one of the laziest things I've ever read.
Yeah, so let's move on to something a little bit more enjoyable. CBR.com. Bendis responds to criticism over action characters' derogatory use of autism.
God. That's so autistic.
Writer Brian Michael Bendis has come under fire from whom? Where? Well, let's find out. Has come under fire for his derogatory use of the word autistic, as spoken by a villain in Action Comics 1002. Readers
it was a villain!
I know. Readers and comic journalists, some of whom have to work with autistic children, took to Twitter to criticize Bendis, DC Comics, and its editors for use of the term. Wait a minute. People took angry, hostile umbrage on Twitter?
What? I am both shocked and appalled.
Bendis has since apologized and explained why he used the term, which was uttered by a villain and not Superman himself. The writer tweeted, quote, "Yeah, it's an insult I can't stand. It has been said to me directly, and I put it in my work to illustrate its ugliness from an ugly character who got his immediate comeuppance." No, you
I
didn't.
now want to write Superman just so I could have him look at some villain and go, "Are you on the spectrum?"
What's more, Bendis has reached out to his editors to ensure the word will not appear in subsequent printings or in trade paperback. Quote,
See, that is censorship. They keep doing this crap. They put something in an issue and then change it later. I don't like that. That makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, I quote, I called my editor and told them to make sure it's not in any other printings, close quote, he wrote. And again, it won't be in the trade. Language is tough. When trying to be real, you can be real hurtful. You know it wasn't my intention, and you helped me see my way through it. Thank you. Jesus Christ.
That sounds
yellow-bellied jellyfish. That works better than jellyfish anyway. This guy. And do you think he got the hate that Cyberpunk 2077 got for that? Did you just assume their gender?
I'm sure he didn't get that level of hate because he looks like Egghead from the 1960s Batman show.
Yeah.
And they're afraid he's a supervillain.
He apologized in the right way. Which is complete kowtowing. Language is violence, or, language is tough. And, actually was being spoken by a villain. Here was my real intention. I apologize to anyone who was hurt, and blah, blah, blah.
People just need to sit there and tell these people when they get offended to get fucked.
Yeah, they'll eventually they get outraged for a short time, then they move on to the next outrage. Just ignore them; they'll go away.
Just wait for Trump to say something. It'll only take a few days.
I'm sick of it. I'm really sick of it. Whenever anyone says, "Well, I found that offensive, and I'm not going to blah blah blah," and I said, "Okay," that's all you need to say. Just say, "Okay." Don't say anything else. Don't apologize. Don't say, "I'm sorry you were offended." Don't, antagonize or breed the situation anymore. Just say, "Okay."
Yeah. I'm sorry your mom raised a pussy in the photo of a little baby crying. Probably a little overboard, but
I'm just saying, man, these people, they need a healthy dose of ignorance. People just need to ignore them.
Yeah, these are kids that never were spanked.
Yeah.
There was never any consequence, so they think everything has to go their way. And I am tired of it. I'm right there with you, Quiz.
Mm-hmm.
The interesting, remember I was talking about how Frank Miller reacquired the film and TV rights for Sin City?
Mm-hmm.
And that was pretty, I told you, he stopped drinking, he's getting better. Because he was smart enough to oh shit, I should probably get a lawyer and fight for these things because you guys are going through a corporate breakup right now, and all the corporate assets, including IPs, it's sort of up in the air where they're going. If you guys aren't going to develop that series anymore, that means, according to the contract, they revert to me. You can't sell those intellectual properties, unless there's some kind of financial consideration paid to me, because that's what the contract stated, and you guys thought I was going to not notice, but I did. They were actually in the process of trying to sell those rights, as a giant package along with everything else. You know what I mean? It's no, not those. So Robert Rodriguez was the director of both Sin City films, and in CBR, Robert Rodriguez sued because Sin City sequel went over budget. And it... Yeah, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For producer Sergei Bespalov is suing director Robert Rodriguez for failures behind the scenes that allegedly ballooned the cost of the film. A pattern of misbehavior on the fault of Rodriguez, according to the claim. It accuses the director of causing various delays on the set of the film, which added another $20 million in cost overruns. And it's that suit's never going to really claim what was going on. They thought that the producer, who owned partial rights to that IP, all those rights for film and television now reverted to Frank Miller, and so he's not getting his cut of it. And it's oh goddamn, well, yeah, I didn't, Sin City, A Dame to Kill For was a flop. It lost money. Sergey here lost money, so he starts hunting for financial targets and found Robert Rodriguez.
That sounds right.
You know what I mean? It's coincidentally, that film came out a number of years ago. You didn't think to sue him before now? Oh, right. It was right after you lost ownership of that valuable intellectual property. Wild stuff.
Is anyone actually surprised by that, though?
No, not at all. It's like a filmmaker getting sued for cost overages. You're going to have to display like some kind of like extreme negligence or stupidity on his part. And somehow in his contract, it said he was limited to a certain amount of money. Is any director actually limited in that way? Isn't that why directors get fired when they do stuff like that?
I don't think that he's got a legit lawsuit unless the dude spent all the money on hookers and blow.
But unfortunately, I think the way that it works in a lot of really large suits of that sort, Rodriguez is probably pretty well off financially, and I can fight this out for, $75,000, or I can fight this out and potentially lose like $250,000 in legal fees, or I can pay this guy off with $200,000, and that's what he's looking for in the first place. Okay, fine, I'll settle.
Yeah, it'll probably either get settled out of court or it'll never make it to court because this guy doesn't actually want to put the money up for legal fees. He's just looking for a payout.
People are looking for a payout, but not to get too far away from the comic books thing, but unfortunately here's a scary stat. There are more lawyers in law schools in America than there are practicing lawyers in the rest of the world.
Yeah,
America is a very litigious place, and there are lots of lawyers, and they paid for very expensive law school, and they have to pay their student loans off, man, and their bar fees and everything else. So they work on that. I forget the Latin phrase for it, not pro bono, but it means I don't get anything unless you get something. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So he's going to put the money down. Not always. Wow. It's like the ambulance chasers you see advertising on TV,
Someone better call Saul.
Yeah. Speaking of comics, if I was DNC, that's the type of guy I would hire. The sleaziest, scummiest lawyer to go sue Mark Waid. Because
good thing Jim caught that. I was going to say something, but then, Polly talks a million miles a minute. Bar fees? You mean bar tabs?
You know what? In listening to I was saying this to you, Quiz. In listening to like an old stream as I was uploading it over on BitChute, the live episodes. By the way, you can find them over on BitChute under Polly_dub. God damn, I talk fast. It doesn't seem like it to me, but I'm listening to myself and I'm like, slow down, bro. What the fuck? Is someone got a gun to your head making you talk that quick? It doesn't seem like it to me, but I think I might be baffling everybody, unfortunately. I gotta slow down.
Imagine how fast you'd talk if you did have a gun to your head.
I mean, I had a joke when you were saying that Frank Miller stopped drinking, but then you launch right into it. I was gonna say, what are you, dense or retarded or something?
You know what, Inquisitor? I'm going to challenge you right now. Okay. Tell me something else about All-Star Batman and Robin. I don't think you've read it.
He made Robin eat pureed rat? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, he didn't.
Okay. What was it then?
It was a rat that came up, and it was in terms of Robin eating it. But how did it happen? He never actually ate a rat. You don't see that.
He threw Robin down into the cave and said, "Get your ass back up here."
It's funny that you only know the meme-tastical things. Oh, what happens with Black Canary? You like her as a character. You should remember that.
He fucks her out of nowhere for no reason after they beat up a bunch of thugs on a pier.
All right. Okay.
It's a bad comic, Paul.
I don't know. I was suspicious. I was starting to think, I don't think this guy's even read it. I just think he loves pushing around that. What are you, retarded or something?
I felt offended reading that comic. I got really angry.
It's gritty and hard boiled. You just don't understand it. Save that
for fucking Sin City, not Batman.
Were you offended because he used the word retard?
Hey now.
Well, there's something you do have to say for Frank Miller. That is not a guy who's going to apologize to anyone for anything.
Yeah. I'll just tell him
he doesn't need to.
Yeah, he doesn't need to, right? I love that clip that Razorfist used in one of his last episodes of Frank Miller, and somebody's asking him, what do you think now, a few years on from writing Holy Terror? And he picks up the microphone and goes, Holy Terror? I have no regrets. I make no apologies. What do you want to know? He didn't even ask if he wanted to apologize. It's just, I'm so sick of being asked this. I'm just going to come out the gate and tell you, fuck you. I did what I did, and I was pissed as hell, and it was intended as propaganda. And what? Okay, good on you, Frank. Move on.
By God, that's what it was.
Yep. So we're at that point in the show where we've, well, one, gone over time, but two, are going to pitch comics. We seem to be going as a pattern of you first quiz. So why don't we hold with that? What do you got for us this week?
All right. I've got one written by Mike Grell, penciled by Rick Hoberg, inked by John Nyberg, letters by Steve Haney, colorist Julia Lackment, and editor Mike Gold. I have Green Arrow and Shadow Hunt for the Red Dragon.
Ooh, sexy cover.
Yes. This is taken from the Wikipedia entry here, or no, not Wikipedia. This is the DC Comics synopsis. When asked to find a woman with a unique red dragon tattoo, Green Arrow's hunt for justice becomes more than a mere manhunt. As Oliver's prey is Shadow, once his foe and his lover, Oliver finds himself the hunted, not the hunter. Essentially, this comic is the cliche story, only told with a superhero of a rich guy hires someone to find someone, finds both of them, fixes them with explosive collars, and then hunts them on an island.
Why do they need explosive collars? So because they try to escape the island?
So they can't escape, yeah.
Okay.
It's, you know, that's a tale as old as time. I've read several short stories with it. That's the premise of Michael Cray killing Oliver Queen in the Michael Cray series, where all of the DC superheroes are supervillains. But in my opinion, this is a great story. It's well after Shadow has already had the kid that would grow up to be Connor Hawke. Connor's taken from Shadow, and then Oliver's trying to find Shadow because a man was hired for him to find her, and then when he does, captures both her and Oliver, and then puts them on an island to hunt them because they're known as the two best archers in the world, and he fancies himself as a better archer. So it's a really interesting series. It's a 4-issue miniseries.
That's what I was just about to ask. It's a 4-issue. Okay.
Yeah. It's June 1992, issue 63, 64, 65, and 66.
I'm actually interested in reading that. Why not? Yeah, that sounds good.
I really enjoyed this series. Pretty much any of the Green Arrow and Shadow comics, I enjoyed the crap out of. There's a whole bunch of those. I could recommend all day, but this one is one of those ones where you don't really need to know who the characters are to get initiated into the story. So
sweet. Okay. Yeah, a successful pitch. I want to read it. So, Jack.
Oh, am I next? I thought
yes, you are. Well, I can go next if you want. I don't care.
I don't care. I'm not picking.
Okay. Then I am. You're going next.
Okay.
All right.
I went with, hold on, look at this damn screen share things. 1987's Mephisto Versus.
Holy shit.
Issue 1 was versus the Fantastic Four. These were written by Al Milgrom with art by Buscema.
Okay, I remember before we were going live, I said I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go with something else. This is what I was going to go with first. So it's a good thing I changed my mind, because otherwise we would have been pitching the same comic 4-issue series to each other. You have excellent taste, sir. This 4-issue series is awesome, but
yes, it is.
I'm interrupting your pitch. Go ahead.
No, that's fine. Mephisto's basically trading up each story, so he has to go through the different teams, and you get a really good feel for the late 80s in here. You get all the classic teams. You've got X-Men, you've got X Factor, which are the original X-Men. You've got the Fantastic Four, and you've got the Avengers. And these are the pretty classic lineup of Avengers and X-Men. So it was back when Storm was running things, which was a good team lineup. And everybody gets involved by the end of the book, and it works out really well. They're pretty self-contained stories that lead to a overarching narrative, and I liked that quite a bit, especially because the art was awesome.
Yeah. And just what the great pitch, by the way. I mean, guys, seriously, anyone who's listening, I highly recommend it. I mean, Mephisto's just a great Marvel Universe character because he's, basically the devil, right?
Yeah, and that's done really well because he infiltrates and poses as other people, and it was on prestige format because $1.50 was extremely expensive for the time, but the paper quality holds up really, really well for these.
Like it'll give you a sense, especially like this one and the one that I'm going to pitch, just how lazy a lot, unfortunately, of comic book writing has gotten. It's a very developed, clever fucking story. Like Mephisto is the trickster. And how, like you said, he's trading up. Yeah. And why he's going through all of these people. It's not haphazard. It's on purpose, and how crucial Rogue is to his plan.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think so. Like, what would Rogue possibly be of value to him? He's so powerful. Well, you'll have to read it to find out, but it's clever as hell.
Canonically, this is Rogue's first kiss that didn't put someone incapacitated. So her first kiss is with the devil.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's really cool the way he deals with people and how he messes with their minds, like stripping the thing up into feeling like a monster, and the way he makes Wolverine animalistic. They really played into the storylines that were already going. So if you were into the series of Avengers, they really played to that, because what Thor is going through at the moment is actually what was happening in the Avengers series or in the Thor book. And if you had been reading Thor, it tied in perfectly without ever screwing up anything. It didn't take place in its own pocket thing. It was part of the main universe.
Yeah. Shady brings up Mephisto's portrayals in the Ghost Rider movies. It was just like, holy shit, was it bad? Mephisto is one of those characters that's like, he's been waiting for the CGI era. Make him, use him. You can do him now. You know what I mean? It's
yeah.
You don't have to just make him some idiot in a black leather jacket saying, "I'm Mephisto." But
it's written at a high school level, so it's good for teenagers. It's good for adults. Al Milgrom was a solid writer, and John Buscema was a great artist. So that's my age group of books right there. That's when I think Marvel was at its peak. It was in the late 80s, early 90s.
Have you ever heard of this comic series, Inquisitor?
No.
Mephisto Versus? No?
No.
They've only reprinted it twice. So it's really hard to find in trade, but you can pick up the individual issues for $1.50, $2 a piece.
Yeah, they might be a good convention fodder for me to try to find.
Yeah.
Just incredibly worth it. Like I said, it's just it's a great read. It's comic booky as hell. You know what I mean? It has all of the characteristics of a great, well-written story within a universe where this kind of stuff could only happen in a comic book. It's great. So my pitch is actually very much along the same lines as Jack's here. Let me get her up. Fantastic Four versus the X-Men.
This was my other choice.
Wow. I'm a big Doctor Doom is my favorite Marvel villain, unless you count Galactus as a villain, which you shouldn't. But it's a weird story, man. It's very psychological, I guess would be the best way to describe it. What basically is happening is that Kitty Pryde is stuck in an intangible state and is becoming more and more intangible to the point where she's simply going to float away and become nothing. So she's dying, basically. the X-Men approach Reed Richards because he is, Reed Richards. He's so brilliant. You must be able to do something to help Kitty. Dr. Doom offers his talents as well. Well, I am a great scientist as well. But of course, he's got a machination because Doom always does.
What?
No. I know.
No.
Underlying it. And it's just psychological as hell. And it's got a lot to do with like Reed Richards what's his name? Franklin Richards, who has like the precognition and these psychic abilities, very powerful, but because he's a kid, they only manifest while he's asleep. So, just wonderful nightmare that Franklin's having here of like, the dead X-Men and so forth. And he can see so much of this coming, and we came to you for help, and now Kitty's dead. And Wolverine's like, I'm going to get you. And it's all focused around this. Reed Richards' journal from Empire State University. Great machination. What could possibly be so great about that? And it's like, I don't know, Jack, how much can you tell without it being spoilers? It's
I would be very careful. I don't think you
it's
can say a lot without ruining it.
Yeah, I guess Dr. Doom plants some suggestions in the minds of the Fantastic Four that Reed isn't who they think he is.
Yeah.
And he might actually not be who he thinks he is. Like he's managed to convince himself over the years that he's not who he used to be. You know what I mean? So maybe he never was. It's Doom playing with everyone's mind. Not because he's evil, but because of this ongoing, decades-long anger that he has towards Reed Richards. It's really based in the Fantastic Four's origin story and related to Doom's origin story. You know what I mean? And it just plays itself out so great. So like I said, it's a 4-issue miniseries. Has it ever been reprinted in a trade?
No, they've never reprinted this one. And there's a lot of them like this from the 80s that were never reprinted.
And again, it's another great example that if you read it, and oh yeah, by the way, I mean, how classic is this up here, right? Number 2 in a 4-issue limited series when Marvel used to be honest when something was limited, not just tell you later that that's what we intended the whole time.
Yeah, when they find out sales are garbage, they're like, oh, it was just limited series. Just kidding. And I love that Franklin Richards has the Eddie Munster hair where it looks like he's going bald at like 7.
What was his little group of superpowered kids? Power Pack?
Power Pack? Yeah. It's awesome. I used to read Power Pack when I was little.
It's pretty odd the way this story plays it out. Yeah, it is pretty dark and psychological and has to do with everybody suddenly not trusting each other and not really wanting to be part of the same team anymore. And Reed begins to doubt himself. Maybe this is real. And or is it all a plan of Doom's? It's interesting. Rather dark for a high school aged comic book, if you know what I mean. And it will do a great job of reminding you just how lazy a lot of comic books writing has gotten. No ideas, no plots, just fighting bad guys and then talking about how awesome they are and everyone telling them how awesome they are. And that comprises 40% of all the comic books out there right now. That's sad.
Well, that's why we're doing this, so we can tell people what good comics are out there that they can get.
Yeah. No, good point. So, I don't know, Quiz, does that sound halfway interesting, or did it just sound really confusing in my attempts to avoid spoiling the story?
No, it sounds interesting. I've never really been one for the Fantastic Four, but this is one of my favorite eras of the X-Men. So, yeah, I might check it out. I've always wanted to like the Fantastic Four more than I actually do.
Right.
Yeah. Fantastic Four works best as a kid's book because it's something kids can relate to, is the family dynamic of it. You got your weird Uncle Ben who comes over and lets you goof off. And then you've got mom and dad and the kids and Uncle Johnny who's probably giving them candy and shit. So, here, I eat this. Your mom said no, but I said it. Here's some candy.
Yeah, well, so, it's like you got Ben, who's the goofy uncle, and then you got Johnny, who's the
bad influence uncle.
Well, he's the cool uncle.
Yeah, well, it's that family dynamic kids can relate to. So I think that it makes a better kids book as like a Leave It to Beaver kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's kind of what it's like, is like a goody two shoes family.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it works better as a younger reader book that should introduce new characters to the kids as they get older, so they'll have crossovers and stuff. I always thought it worked better that way.
I do know that the Fantastic Four work really well also in crossovers. Because I remember there were several times where, like, well, in Spider-Man, when Peter's trying to get the symbiote off of him, and we see the birth of Venom when the symbiote trickles down the bell tower onto Eddie Brock, which is an iconic image in comic book history. One of the things that, or one of the major ways that Spider-Man fights Venom from then on is he goes to Reed Richards for a sonic cannon.
Yeah. Yeah, they were great as guest stars, and these miniseries, they were really good in those. Secret Wars, of course. And I hope they do more of that, where they aim at a younger audience and have other characters guest star in their book and have like team ups. Treat it more like a Marvel 2-in-1. But I don't think they're gonna.
I've always liked the Fantastic Four for the way that they fit into the Marvel universe. They're sort of like the when you have trouble, you go to Reed Richards, you go to the Baxter Building, and you know what I mean? Like they just kind of fill that role, and they deal with like cosmic level problems and issues and interdimensional problems. That's why Doctor Strange is always going to them, and they work well in that way, considering it's like stretchy guy, invisible girl, rocky dude, and flame guy. Like it's they still play them quite well in that way.
Yeah, and they have a diverse power base, so they can do different things, and they know everybody. So, but yeah, I always thought it should be aimed at younger readers and do it more like the Batman Adventures books.
Did you check out the Fantastic Four #1?
Yes, regrettably.
Yeah, so did I. Whew.
What a waste of money that was.
I mean, when whose review of it was it that I was watching? Was it Yellow Flash or was it DNC? It was DNC. Isn't that the squishy face review?
Yeah.
Okay. Where he's talking about his dog having a squishy face. He says it so perfectly. Like, and I felt the same way. Like this horribly drawn last page where they're joking about, we don't even have the Fantastic Four in our first issue, and it's like that's not clever.
Slap in the face, fans. Huge slap in the face. I paid $6 for that. I paid regular price, and I was lit up. My review was not very kind to that book, but you know what? I cleansed my palate from that one with this alternate book for $1.50 called Eden. Way better book. Way better. Just pick up some Alterna instead of Fantastic Four. You'll be happier.
Man.
And then go watch my reviews.
I watched your review before DNC's, so.
You
Hey.
know what review I liked of yours that you just did was the Unicron one.
Yeah, you know what? I really like that book.
You described it well, and you made it interesting. Like it's like, oh wow, this is actually a good story. Cool. I wouldn't have thought to have looked at that or read that. So that was cool. You did a review of it.
Yeah, I'm having fun with that one. I'm not a huge Transformers person, but most people aren't. So
yeah,
and based on their sales numbers, their fans have abandoned them quite a bit.
Yeah, because the Transformers are the huge ones, not us.
Yeah.
All right.
Most people remember the Transformers for the cartoons, not the comics.
I read the 80s comics. I didn't watch the cartoon more than a handful of times because I didn't really know what was going on. And I've read a few of the IDW books from like way back when they first got the license. But I actually liked Unicron quite a bit. Probably because of that, but
yeah, my knowledge of Unicron mostly comes from things that people told me that went on in the Transformers comic book series, and then of course the '86 Transformers the movie.
Yeah,
that was, Unicron, Orson Welles, he was fantastically presented. He was so cool in that movie.
I remember more the fact that Eric Idle was in that movie, and he got to say "Ba weep, grana weep, ninny bong."
So Inquisitor types this into Discord the other day, and I'm like, what? You know, it's just, or he told me what it meant when somebody else had typed it out in chat. That's where it happened on a live stream. And I was like, that's what you remember from that film? That film has the greatest fucking badass lines, like with Starscream, who interrupts my coronation? And Galvatron's like, coronation, Starscream. This is bad comedy. Like, it's just, there's so many great lines in it. You know, it's Unicron with your bargaining posture is highly dubious. Like, there's
that's what I really liked about Unicron, the miniseries they're doing now. Starscream keeps telling them we should run away. Like, there's this great scene where they're talking about this city Metroplex can transform into a robot and bridge to another world. And he's like, we should do that and escape. And they're like, well, only 30% of the population make it out. And he's like, yeah.
So,
but I'm here. So
the important bits here, Starscream. Yeah.
So Shady asks, like, as a Lost in Space type origin, you mean like that really horrible film, or like the original black and white?
I think he means as in they are lost in space and return, like they were a lost ship.
Gotcha.
As opposed to, like, you know, the crappy TV series.
Yeah, I just didn't understand. Is like, so they're gonna take like Herbie the robot with them, and he'll be like,
yeah, instead of Robbie, it's Herbie, and he's just
danger, Franklin. Like it. I don't want to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Danger, Reed Richards. Danger.
Exactly. And then Uncle Ben can play the creepy older scientist dude. What was his name? Dr.
Smith.
Dr. Smith, is it? I've watched that show maybe twice or three times in my life, like as it airs on like Nickelodeon as it did back in the day. And God, it was awful. It was unwatchable for me.
It's pretty terrible. I've heard the new series on Netflix is pretty good, but I haven't watched it.
No. Yeah, neither have I. All right, guys. Any final thoughts as we wrap up this week's episode?
Yeah, I mean, I would recommend reading some Alterna books because I'm really liking what they're doing. At least their miniseries are listed as miniseries, and they're really good price point at $1.50 to $2.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to start hyping more of their work and reading. I've got almost everything they've published, so I'm going to try and do more reviews on that.
I hope their business model of doing that with less expensive production values, thus a lower cover cost, I hope that works out for them, because that would be a great kick in the balls to the big two. You know, like, I hope they develop a strong little niche for themselves, you know?
Well, I've noticed in the new issue of previews that the prices are going up on a few books to $5 for regular issues.
Okay.
For Marvel. And their Marvel paper quality is garbage. And instead, you know, take a look at Alterna for $1.50. So what if it's on newsprint? That's how most of us grew up reading comics.
Yep.
Like, I like glossy, but glossy shitty stories don't, and often shitty art.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying all art, like, no, it's not all shitty, but so much of it is. And it's like, my God.
Yeah.
Like, you guys you're Marvel fucking comics, and you're willing to put that out?
Yeah, DC's doing the same thing with a lot of their books, but if you're looking for some good reads, try Alterna. You could get 3 books for just over the price of 1 from Marvel. And they've got a pretty good back catalog. I think everything's still in print. Their trade paperbacks are like $10 to $14. So if you want to get it in trade on nicer paper, they offer that too. But man, I'm telling you, for $1.50, even if you don't like it, you still got your money's worth out of it, because you're going to kill a little bit of time. And I really like a lot of their stuff. They've had some really interesting books, and they've got ones for younger readers like Psycho Co. and Lilith Dark and Adam Reck. Those were all good kids' books. And then they've got a lot of stuff for mature readers like horror books. They've got a fantasy ongoing series like Scrimshaw. And it's their only ongoing series. Everything else is miniseries. They've done sci-fi, stuff like that. So there's a little bit for everybody there.
Yeah, so Alterna. All right. Quiz.
Nothing new from me. Just, going. I would say no. That's
final thoughts is what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Support the comics that you like, because that's, I think, the important message that is kind of getting buried in the chaff. People buy comics for hate reviews. Yeah. It's all funny. It's all fun and games. Even I've said I might pick up West Coast Avengers. If you really want to send a statement to the big two to say, hey, you're not doing the good, you're doing the bad, don't give them your money. Support books that you like, not books that you want to hate read.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. There has to be more positivity if Comicsgate's going to make a difference. They have to not just hate read something and hate review it like a lot of channels are. Like Jim mentioned this, and I agree with him. You have to encourage people to buy good books, and we have to start pointing out which ones are good, which is why we're doing the recommendations that we're doing on here. So even if it's an older back issue, in the store is still going to be supported by you going in and buying it.
Yeah. Which leads to the same final thought I have every week. Support your local comic book shop by buying what you like, buying things other than the big two. If you find them interesting, experiment, go around, and don't forget about back issues and trade paperbacks of like used trade paperbacks. And Quiz brings up a great point. Like local comic book conventions are just gold mines for that. And that is a lot of the local comic book shops show up at those smaller conventions to have their own tables and stuff. You can read great stories from the 70s, 80s, 90s, support your local comic book shop, and still enjoy the characters of the big two. You know what I mean? Like it's a way of keeping the market alive, well, not having to support something that it's not even a question of support. It's just, I don't want to read it. It's not worth my $5 when I can buy for, my $5, like a couple of back issues of something I'm actually going to enjoy reading, like one of the ones we recommended or something else that catches your attention. You know what I mean? And as a second part of that, I'm going to put up I'm going to put up Blue Mamba's Indiegogo because that I have seen some of the pages of it and it looks fantastic. It's definitely worth looking into. Support the independent comics because it's that are going on through Indiegogo, be it Cyberfrog, which is over now, but like Iron Sights I think is still open. Blue Mamba is still open. There it is. I've supported because it looks great. It's sexy as hell and assassins and interesting, and yeah. So it's buy what you like, support what you like, and positivity through Comicsgate. Absolutely.
I'd also like to point out that 2 of the 3 mentions that we had for our recommends are sold in trade paperback. Green Arrow the Green Arrow Hunt for the Red Dragon is in trade paperback. Fantastic Four versus the X-Men is in trade paperback. And then the Mephisto Versus is only available in single issues, but you can find those single issues at conventions, at back issues in local comic stores, or if God forbid none of those are options for you, Amazon.com can sell them for fairly cheap too.
There it is. All right, guys. So Quiz, Jack, thanks for coming along. We're gonna try our damnedest to do it on, well, you guys are doing a good job of being available on Wednesday at 10 p.m. Eastern when we're supposed to be doing it, but I will try my damnedest, and we were supposed to be doing it at Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern, and hopefully I'll be able to get a little bit more consistent with that and not have my work schedule screw me over that way. So, and myself and my own poor timing screw me over. But thanks for coming by, guys, and thanks to the viewers. All right, like, share, and subscribe. Have a good night.
Take care, everyone.
Bye.